Welcome back to another edition of the Gentleman Style Show. I'm Baldwin.
And I'm Creech. And today we've got a great show for you guys. We want to bring you somebody as a guest that could show you something and do it at a high level, especially with fashion. We want to make sure our men are doing the right thing this fall, this winter, all year round.
So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our esteemed guest, Micheal Snell. All right, Micheal. It's a glorious day today in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes, indeed.
It's very nice. So, Micheal, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Micheal D. Snell, the founder of the Facebook movement called Gentleman vs. Swag. I created a company called Gentleman vs. Swag LLC, and underneath that, my parent company, I produce self-published 3 men's style guide books. I also have my own online magazine as well, and my clothing brand, which is Micheal Snell Bespoke. I started off my company initially as a way to eradicate the disease called sagging. That was my intention.
Yeah.
So now, when I did that, I created a social media group called Gentleman vs. Swag, which I spoke of earlier. Now I currently have somewhere close to 29,000 people in that group.
Outstanding.
And then there we talk about, all the facets about men, from anywhere from style to health to fitness to financial literacy. We speak on all those different topics within that group. So that's kind of like how I got started.
Well, tell us, that's how you got started. Tell us about the evolution of what brought you to that point in order to get into the business from the beginning.
Well, it was the maturation process was this. I started off with the Gentleman vs. Swag as a movement.
Okay.
And the ideology, I had to shift my brains once I started getting people who were curious to know what it was I was creating. And then I started getting orders. So I had to mentally make a shift in my mind or my brain and say hobby versus business. So once I made that shift from a hobby to a business, that's when I started incorporating my business plan. I started incorporating people to start monitoring the group that I spoke of earlier, Gentleman vs. Swag. I started hiring consultants around the world to work for me to help me with brand awareness. Then I hired 2 social media managers to post on my behalf, in different groups to get people, aware of what it is that I do.
Right.
So that's kind of like, the maturation process from a hobby to now a full-fledged business. This kind of like how, I transition.
Now, have you always had this passion for fashion, as they would say, in terms of even, growing up as a younger guy, were you the young man that was always in suits and, just had that air about you?
It's a great question.
That is an awesome question. Growing up economically disadvantaged as most young men, I lived vicariously through magazines. So I would look at Detail magazine, Esquire magazine, GQ magazine, Jet magazine, and I would put it in my mind like, wow, I wish I could do that. So what I would do at the time, I would go into the thrift stores and I would try my best to find that item. Of course, a lot of times it didn't fit me being a young man, and I would go to the seamstress and have her tailor it for me. Not knowing that, at that time, it was just about the looks.
Right.
But as I got older, now I'm in the business, it's more than the looks, because once you start doing the tailoring part, you end up messing up the symmetry of the structure of the suit internally.
Well, that brings up another question. I don't mean to cut you off. Do you tailor yourself? Do you sew?
No, I do not. I design. I have 3 master tailors that work for me, and I have my own cobbler.
Okay.
So I'll do a design, I'll send it to them. They'll go through the process of making the garment or a pair of shoes, and then they'll send it back to me either by photo or the complete garment for my final approval.
Okay.
Then from there, and that's when we go through the process of posting an item on my website, and then posting through our social media saying, hey, this item is available.
Oh, okay.
But that's how it works. But what I don't want to be, I don't want people to think that what you see is all you can get. I want people to have the creativeness to customize it their way. So if you see something, that's why a lot of people ask me, do I have a catalog? No, the catalog is what you see.
Right.
So you're not pigeon-toed into a particular item and saying, like some stores you walk into, what you see is what you get. That's it.
Well, let me ask you this question. That leads me to something else. Do your customers have total autonomy as far as in creative design, or do you kind of guide them through the process?
It's based on the client.
Mm-hmm.
So, if, for example, if you've already have some type of style, you want to come into this world and say, hey, I want this.
Right.
Hands off. You tell them exactly how you want it done, and that's how it's done. Or if you come into me and you say, well, hey, I need consultation, I'll go through the process and I'll ask a question like, where are you going? What is, what is the event? Your 5 W's.
Absolutely.
And then I ask about the weather. Nobody talks about the weather, but the weather is also a very important thing because when you're going somewhere, you want to make sure that inclement weather, you want to make sure you dress appropriately. So once I extrapolate all that information from that particular client, then I'll go through the process of saying, okay, this is what I recommend for you. Now, if it's a married man, I try to bring a spouse in because happy wife equals happy life.
Correct.
So if she comes in and she'll give me the input and say, hey, no, not that color, not that particular color, and then we'll take it from there. So now, once I got the stamp of approval, then we start, making that garment or a pair of shoes.
Now, do you get a lot of wives that just come in for their husbands without the husbands even there?
Yes, and sometimes that can be kind of tricky. Because a woman knows a man, but sometimes she doesn't know him completely.
Right.
And so from that, I have to pull additional questions from her. Okay, what does your husband do? Where does he work? What are the type of activities that he enjoys doing? In order to get some type of spectrum of his makeup. So yes, as a matter of fact, there's several clients right now that are ordering a pair of shoes for their husband. And that's pretty easy. 11.5 is 11.5, 11.5 wide, narrow, whatever it is. That's pretty easy. But when it comes to clothes, it could be kind of touchy. I would say that word.
Yeah, we get those questions a lot on our show from women. We want to dress our husbands better. We want our husbands to dress better. And it's kind of a loaded question because now we have to kind of get into the psyche of who is your husband?
Right.
What does he like to do? If he's very casual, he's going to probably want to stay somewhat casual. So when you dress him up, you don't want to overdress him so that he's not comfortable. So we have to go through that. So I thought it was a great question just to actually have somebody to know that women come in and actually say, I want this for my husband. So
because we find a lot of times in the process they want to know what it takes to build an outfit. What is your mindset in order to get to the end result on that? Do you have any advice on that?
Well, what I ask my gentleman in particular, my first initial question is, what is your budget? What is your annual clothing budget? Because I am that brand that I sleep good at night, knowing that I have not taken money from someone who's not ready to make that purchase.
Absolutely.
And I say that to say, a lot of times I end up losing sales because I get a bad feeling that individual lights may be off or his child support payment may not be paid or whatever the scenario happens to be. If my conscience tells me something is up, I'll stay away from the sale. So initially, when you're talking about building a wardrobe, you have to put into your mind how much exposure income do you have to build your wardrobe. Now, building a wardrobe, everybody knows your essentials is your black suit, your gray suit, and your blue suit.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a given. So now, once we've gone from that point on, now it's like adding your accessories, adding some plaids, adding some patterns to it. And that really makes it a valuable commodity when you get a return on your investment. And that's how I look at the industry of clothes.
And you make a very good point. A lot of people don't realize that, as we talked about on the show before, when you're talking about clothes, that is a part of a tool that you need as a person. If you're out in the business world or if you're in corporate America, that is part of your attire, that is part of your brand, so to speak. Just because you're working in corporate America, you are a brand if you wanted to move up that ladder. So that makes a very good point, your return on your investment. So.
And again, too, I watch some of your stuff that you have out there, some of your videos, and it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. You can still step up to the level where what you're looking at today. So
yes,
you give out a lot of good information.
And that's what I try to do, sir. I try to make sure that the content I provide to the viewers or listeners, whether it be on any one of my platforms, is to make sure that I want to make sure that they understand how important your look is.
Right.
And a lot of us have lost that aspect when it comes to look.
Right.
My grandfather would never leave the house, in inappropriate attire unless he was going to lay brick. He was a brick mason.
So you had mentors before.
Yes, so men, the men that I migrated toward were all men that, in their own rights had their own business, but they also carried themselves in a general way at all times. Absolutely. So that's where I'm trying to, my tagline, you see it a lot, is the rebirth of the gentleman.
Right.
we're kind of like a dying breed, and I want us to come back to life.
Absolutely.
That's my goal.
Absolutely.
We share that goal, as
We do.
you can
We
see.
really do.
You know,
We
we
really share that
definitely
goal.
share that goal. That was something that we talked about when we looked at, the state of our world for men. I think that we as men have lost our way in not just in fashion, but just in general.
Right.
When you don't have the mindset of doing better, then you've lost your way. So we figured we'd do something to try to be that, I guess, that beacon to say we can all do better, no matter what you're doing. We can
Yes.
all do better. So.
Right, exactly. So tell us about Micheal Snell, the man. What goes on behind the scenes? What should we know? Share with us.
What we should know is that, ladies and gentlemen, I wake up every morning about 5:30.
Okay.
I'm a retired military officer, and that's just embedded in me. But it's also, I get up in the morning, it's important to me to start my day off right. So I get up in the morning, I exercise, I say a prayer, for guidance for the remainder of that day. At that time, I'll usually would check my emails, messages. 5:30 in the morning, I'm working. Because the brain is,
Exactly.
unlike some people, when I wake up, my brain is already charged.
Right.
Because when I sleep, my brain is still working at 40% capacity. So that's, the doctors are kind of working through that and trying to make me sleep a little bit better. But once they do that, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I do chores around the house, I love to cook, I garden, I ride motorcycles. I'm just an everyday.
Michael Gardens, man.
Yes, I do go. I do garden. I do. I love growing my own fresh vegetables. I love to grill. I love to cook. I love traveling. I love life. Life is such a blessing that we have. And a lot of us, don't really sit around and smell the roses or smell the air, that we breathe, and be thankful that we have that opportunity to do it. Yes, I did a lot of things in the military that a lot of people probably wouldn't do.
Right.
But, because I did it to protect our country, being based on the rules that I was given.
What branch were you?
I was in the Army.
Outstanding.
I was an Army officer. And a lot of people find it funny, like, how can you go from being an Army officer in a uniform and going into men's fashion, and I say this right here, I'm not in the fashion world, I'm in the style world.
Right.
There's a difference.
There's a big difference.
Because when the style world, I said earlier about a return on investment. When you're in the style world, you normally will be able to wear those items for a long period of time. The fashion world is very trendy, it comes and goes.
Yes.
And sometimes at the rate that it changes,
Very fast.
it can be very expensive to your pocket.
Yes.
So that is some of the things about Micheal Snell. Like I said, I'm a passionate motorcycle rider, so I'm not always in suits. I'll wear some jeans, get on my motorcycle, I'll go out and do what I gotta do. I like to work out. That was one of the reasons that got me into this in this industry, because living in Korea the last 5 years, I couldn't go into a store and buy anything because the Korean men are very small.
Right.
So I had to get it. So now I tapped into my childhood magazine days, saying, wow, I bet I could design this. Having no training at all in the world of fashion, the world of designing, I just see something and I modify it for a look that I think would be appealing to my potential client.
So what was your process, your learning process?
Well,
What kind of things did you do?
Well,
I just-
before you say that, now do you sketch? Or
I do sketching, and I'm not a professional sketcher. What I would do, I would sketch. I build a relationship with my tailor
Okay.
and my cobbler
Okay.
to them to understand what my sketches mean.
Okay.
So when I sketch something, specifically with a pair of shoes, is more detail with the shoes is about how you overlay them, whether it's a cap toe, whether it's a split toe, bro game, wingtip, some Chelsea boots. Those things are there. Now it's just how do I customize that
Right.
to appeal to this particular client
I see.
without taking away from, the style mystique of, staying within the elements of style. So that's how I learned my craft. I tapped back into my childhood days of going into the thrift stores and buying something, being able to tell her tell that particular time I was dealing with a female, seamstress, telling exactly how I wanted to fit, modifying the collars or modifying the pockets,
Right.
or those are the things that got me started. Then I go, fast forward to 2012, my family now land in Korea. Seoul, Korea, the capital of fashion in Asia. And a lot of companies are having their products made in Korea.
Right.
And then it's sent to wherever and it's labeled,
Right.
and then it's, is made from wherever then.
Right.
So,
Wherever you decide.
yeah, wherever you decide, But being in Korea, one of the things that I learned was the responsibility of taking pride in yourself. The gentleman there will put on a suit. The garbage man there in Korea will wear a suit to collect to his job,
Outstanding.
changing to his uniform, go and collect garbage, come back to his job, then change back into his suit and go home. That is taking pride in what it is you do.
That was going above and beyond.
It's going above and beyond, but it's also, it has more to do with what you have inside.
Right.
What makes your heart beat, and why is it that you can get up out of the bed and put on a suit to go to your job to collect garbage and then put back on that suit? What is it? It's called intestinal fortitude. It's called, drive, the ability to say, I want better. And regardless of what, facet of life you may be in, what job you may have, what entrepreneurship, crafts you may have, it's all going to base down to how you look. Excuse me. Because one of my books is called Dress Your Way to Success. And we could talk about that, we could talk about the book titles, another time, but it's important that was my first book because a lot of people don't understand. Dressing is essential to how people perceive you,
That's your business.
how your conversation. And I've done this, I've tested this rationale many times. I would go to a gas station dressed casually, they wouldn't turn the pump on for me. I would go there in uniform, my military uniform, the pump is turned on automatically. I would go there dressed dressed like I'm dressed now,
Right.
the pump is turned on.
Absolutely.
So that tells you, for a fact, in that little scenario, that your appearance has some bearing on how people perceive and treat you.
I've tested that in a bank before, several times.
Yes.
Recently.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people don't understand that I do have an academy called Gentleman vs. Swag Inc., which is my own 501c3. And in this particular academy, we mentor young men. The goal is to mentor young men ages 8 to 16 on the right facets of how to become a man. Here we're going to use a 12-session program where we're going to encourage people from in the community to come in to do mentorship. Then we're going to have some returning individuals come back to do peer-to-peer mentorship for the young man. So what I'm trying to do with my sales is convert some of that money over to support the 501c3.
Right.
So these young men will be able to be furnished with their first suit. So if they decide after the age 16, they want to go off to to get a job, at least they'll have a suit to go to a job.
Right.
Show them how to wear, how to tie a tie.
Right.
Show them how to conduct an interview, not be an interview, but how to conduct an interview. Because what I'm trying to teach young men is how to become business owners,
Right.
not serving somebody else, but becoming your own business owner. So if you have the ability to conduct an interview, and if you had to fall back on being interviewed, it's not that different.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of like where I'm going, long term when it comes to my end state is to really fully engage my 501c3, do some of this, do the majority of the sales that I get from my books, my magazines, my clothing, and my shoes, to funnel that money over to the 501c3, and that's how I'll be able to get back to those communities. Unlike some of your major companies that that they'll take your money and they'll go back overseas, I plan to reinvest my money within the communities by creating 501c3s around the entire United States for all young men that may be on the cusp of making a bad decision.
Right. Right. That's great.
That's great.
So, we good? Yeah, you should have it. All right. I think that's about it. And Michael, we'd like to thank you for joining us on our show today. Sorry about the rain. Didn't mean to bring the rain with us, but hey, it's like that sometimes. We have no control over Mother Nature.
South Carolina.
Columbia. It's really nice down here. By the way. It's really nice down here. The rain has no bearing on the beauty of the area.
And thank you for hosting us.
No problem.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So, once again, you know how we like to do it. There's no excuse for good taste. Gentlemen of Style, where we believe in better. Have a good day. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
Right. chosen to bring forth that hope and put it back together when niggas thought it was broken, but it's open wide enough for the whole fam to come through. Dough stacking in bundles, flows tracks in the 1-2s. Get your run shoes. Run fast as you can. Here comes the Iron Man. Jump out the frying pan. Smack dead in the fire. I ain't Iron Man. Shorty said rest your head and retire, but I'm the boss, babe. Lawless Inc. AW.